featuring one of mountain bike's most criticized, talked about, complained about, I don't know. Some sort of a technology that a lot of you guys have things to say about. Canyon Spectral and its Keep It Stable system is something that we were really excited to try. Did it win over our testers? Do we think it's all talk? Stay tuned to find out in our long-term review. So what does this mullet 150, 160 equipped bike have that might be even more hated than an e-bike motor? Well, that is Canyon's KIS technology. That is Keep It Stable. And we're gonna talk, well, actually hang on. Max, before we get into this, let's go over here real quick. Sean, Canyon's Keep It Stable system, before you rode the bike, unfiltered, what were your thoughts?
That it was a complete gimmick. Absolutely, just why?
Okay. How long did your mind change, and how long did it take, if so?
It changed about 3/4 of the way down the first trail.
And what were your thoughts after?
I felt like the bike was more planted, tracked better, exited corners better.
Okay.
And it made me feel like I rode the bike faster.
All right, so there you go. Sean was not paid or endorsed to say that, by the way. And of course, we were not paid and have not been paid, nor do we make commission on this product review. So we'll give you some of the goods and bads and impressions ahead. But first off, let's talk about the bike here. Canyon offers the Spectral in a variety of price points from $22.99 up to $64.99. There are two mullet models, one of which is the CF8. This is the only Canyon Spectral that has the Keep It Stable system in it. So if you are skeptical or feel like your arms are way too strong, you don't have to get this one. So this model here is the full carbon. It has 150 mil of rear wheel travel with Canyon's triple phase suspension. It's got a 160 mil fork up front, GX axis, and RockShox suspension. It has a Super Deluxe Coil Select RT rear shock with a Lyric Select Plus RC fork. And I gotta say, our whole crew was pretty impressed with the suspension and the performance of this bike. We spent a lot of time riding this at the bike park, specifically at Mount Bachelor, on Rattlesnake, which if any of you guys have ridden that trail, you'll know this summer in particular, it was very blown out. There was some massive bomb holes, braking bumps, ruts, and for a bike, at the $4,700 price point with, I wouldn't say it's low-end suspension spec by any means, but like, coming off of bikes with really high-end suspension, this stuff impressed us and it did not hold us back at all. It was a really solid performing bike, and it has held up to a lot of abuse. So speaking of holding up to abuse, that is one area where the KIS system has a little bit of a drawback. I don't know how much more of a drawback it is really, because in the event of a crash, if you twist your bars and stem, you have to get off, loosen stuff, twist it to get it back to center anyways. However, with that KIS system, we found it added one additional layer in that it wouldn't recenter. So you kind of had to loosen it back up and really kind of like oversteer to get it to like snap back to center. So that was something that happened a few times to the other guys. I never crashed this bike, but they did. And yeah, for whatever that's worth, just additional step if you do hit the deck or the bike does, that could get off center. So bike performance, suspension, frame stiffness, 2 thumbs up, honestly, really solid all around. And one of our testers, Chris, loves pedaling, putting in big miles, and he was really surprised, one, at how well it pedaled, even with the coil shock, and 2, on some of the flatter, mellower trails with jumps and smaller features, at how springy and sprightly the coil shock rear end was. This bike's an absolute blast to jump, to play with, to snap into corners, to flick around. It's just a really, really fun bike all around. All right, so I'm getting distracted here. We're gonna talk more ride later. This here is the size large. It's got a 480 millimeter reach. The 64-degree head tube angle offers a pretty nice, stable platform, still pretty nimble and maneuverable. It has a 69.8 degree seat tube angle, a 633 millimeter stack height, and an overall wheelbase base of 1,255 mil. So pretty well-rounded, versatile geo all around. That 480 to 485 is kind of a nice sweet spot for most of our riders at 5'11 to 6'2. And we found that that 481 number offered a pretty nice blend of stability with nimbleness and quick handling. And for those of you who like some adjustability, there is a high-low flip chip here. You get about half a degree out of the head tube angle, so you can fine tune that based on your personal preference or your local terrain. So let's head back out to the trail and get some impressions from how this bike rides. Over the last 8 months that we've had the Canyon Spectral, we have passed it around to 4 different riders, all with different styles and preferences and things that they like out of a bike. And it's been really interesting to hear their feedback. Primarily, I was most excited to get Sour Patch's feedback on the KIS system. Sean is a rider who doesn't like to change his ways. He kind of gets in a routine and a habit, and he doesn't like to change it. And he was probably the most skeptical, at least vocally, about the KIS system. And it was pretty apparent from day one that the KIS system had won him over. In fact, even on the first run, he was battling the system a little bit. I wouldn't say battling, but it took a little bit of getting used to. Within about halfway down his first run, he started to kind of correct himself in the corners, figure stuff out. By the time we dropped in for run 2, I told him to turn the system off. And we went down one more section of trail, and we pulled up, and Sean pulled out a multi-tool and was going to turn it back on. Sean, like I said, he hardly ever carries tools, and he very rarely wants to work on a bike. So the fact that he went from not believing that it was actually valid to instantly being like, I want this back on, spoke volumes to me. And that was a lot of what I felt about the KIS system. The first time I actually rode it was earlier this year in Whistler on a Canyon equipped e-bike. And I started the ride with the system on, kind of just getting used to it, feeling it out, and then started dropping into steep, wet route, you know, kind of gnarly downhill trail off the mountain. And when the folks at Canyon said, hey, you know, turn it off and let's keep riding for a bit, I had the same feeling. I didn't really notice what it was doing. I didn't really notice how much it was helping until I turned it off and it went away. And then all of a sudden it felt like instead of going like this, my front tire was just doing this, and I was just all over the trail. I guess, I don't know, maybe some people might say it's cheating or you're not strong enough, I don't know, but if you have suspension and you have gears and you've got disc brakes, all of these things are cheating really, right? Because they're making it easier to ride and to ride faster. So I'm not sure where you draw the line on technology that helps you ride faster and better versus not. I digress. But yeah, I'm spending a lot of time talking about the KIS system because I think it is the most unique part about this bike, right? Like everything else can be found on other bikes or similar to other bikes, but the KIS system is what stands apart here. And as far as that is concerned, it has won over all of our staff. Is it mandatory? Is it necessary? Absolutely not. But there are some undeniable characteristics that we really liked. There were some downsides, primarily around jumping or, you know, wanting to play with the bike. You know, there were some scenarios where you'd kind of come off of a lip or be in a certain type of a weird corner, and you would sort of feel a little bit of that energy wanting to correct and straighten the bike up in a certain way. Okay, so moving on from the KIS system, how does the rest of the bike ride? For all the other models that you might be interested without it, we really, really like this bike. It rides way outside of its weight class, and what we mean by that is it is fast and it wants to be ridden hard. For the amount of travel this bike has, it's pretty amazing how many days we took this thing to the bike park and rode it on downhill trails. And the only thing that really, you know, was worse for wear are the brakes. And, you know, they were actually all right, but I gotta say the bars and the grips, obviously, but anyone who's ridden a Canyon knows those suck and they go instantly. But aside from that, like, the bike has held up quite well. The fork, you know, I mean, for what you're getting and the price point, right, there's always going to be pros and cons. A little bit burlier of a fork would be nice for more aggressive riders, but the Lyric is great. I would say this is like an aggressive all mountain to light duty enduro bike, maybe. And it rips. It is so fun. Chris was one of our testers who rode this bike. He came back and he's a full 29 rider, and he was like, I can't believe how fast this bike is for a mullet bike. Several other riders commented like, dude, this bike is just so fast. It keeps and accelerates speed so good on the trail. You don't have to work very hard for it. Along with being fast, the poppy, playful nature of it, even with a coil sprung rear end, multiple riders were like, I can't believe how like lively and, you know, light this thing is to pop off of the ground with a coil shock. It doesn't have that heavy coil, you know, over damped plush kind of rear end. It's smooth and it's nice, but like, it's definitely a springy, sprightly, and lively bike. Let's see here, we had a lot of riders on this thing, so I've got notes from everybody that I'm browsing. So, all right, Poppy AF. Poppy AF, that is definitely a note from everybody here. GX Axis, loves jumping, we went over that. Okay, odd spec choice. One of the downsides, some of the guys thought that it was a little weird, some of the spec to have Axis with code R brakes and middle of the road suspension. I would maybe agree. I mean, the GX Axis is really nice. I mean, Axis in general is nice, not having the cables or the wires. I think I would maybe rather have a wired derailleur and a little bit nicer suspension spec, especially with a fork, but everyone's a little different, I guess. Most of our testers agreed, though, the suspension spec would be nice to see a little better. Slacker seat tube angle was something that some of our riders commented on. I'm sure the mullet, you know, rear end certainly didn't help it kind of feeling a little bit rear bias on some of the steeper, gnarlier climbs. It did climb pretty well, especially for, you know, being a coil shock bike and a mullet. We definitely made use of the climb switch in some longer, you know, smoother fire road sections where we really wanted to maximize efficiency. But overall, the KIS system is sweet. Our whole crew liked it. Some quirks about it, like we mentioned. This bike is fun, fast, playful, capable, well-rounded, pretty decent value. I mean, there's really not a lot of bad stuff we can say, aside from we don't really like Canyon's cockpit. Their bar, stem, grip, then the grips are terrible. But yeah, the bar, stem, and grip combo, not that great. Aside from that, though, overall, a really solid and stout and capable bike that is effortlessly fun to ride. It was an absolute treat to ride this thing. So if you guys have any questions, please ask us down below. We'd be happy to answer and get involved with you in the comments. We always love hearing your feedback and what you think. Thanks again for watching. Thanks to Canyon for sending us this loaner bike. We'll be sad to see it go. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys out on the trails. Thanks for watching.